Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hey, I realized I didn't tell you our previous rabbit, who you've seen on the show several times, Kala. Kala got adopted. We were her foster parents, foster family, and she got adopted by another family. So we got a new rabbit, actually. His name's Bruce. I'll show you a picture of him. He went to the vet today. There he is. You can see him right there, looking out over a box. That's him at the vet. That's him at the vet because he has a little problem of spraying everything constantly. So today he's off to the vet to get emasculated. It was pretty funny when I dropped him off. I've not taken an animal to a actual animal hospital before. So the lady comes out. She's asking me all these questions, like things I didn't know they asked about animals. Like she was like, "Hey, do you have a DNR?" I was like, "DNR? I don't know what that is." She said, "A do not resuscitate." I was like, "On the rabbit?" She goes, "Yeah, like if the rabbit has a heart attack or something while we're in surgery, do you want us to try and revive the rabbit, or do you have a DNR?" I was like, "No." What? Why? No, I don't have a DNR. And then at the end, she was like, "Do either of you have more questions?" And I was like, "Well, Bruce is a rabbit. He's a bunny. He doesn't know what's about to happen. So he might have questions later. But right now, he doesn't have any questions. And I think I'm fine." So anyway, Bruce, he's done with his surgery, and apparently all went well. So in a few days, you guys can see Bruce after he's recovered. Don't forget this Friday, you also can meet my new friend, Diva Fagan, author of Rival Magic, which is great. You're going to really enjoy it. And I think you're going to enjoy Diva as well. All right, let's see. People are checking in. Let's see who's here. Hey, we made it on time today, says Grace Reeve. Hello, Grace. Hello, Reeves. Caitlin is here. Hey, Caitlin. Patrick's here. Hi, Patrick. My daughter Zoe is here. She's over there on the couch. She was asleep a minute ago, and then suddenly she was like, she was awake. The Scales family are back for more. Very excited to hear more. Good. I'm excited too. Dr. Awesome says, "Oh, get well soon, Bruce." I'm sure he will. He also got a free nail clipping, which is nice. And some sort of laser procedure. I was unclear. They asked if I wanted it. They said it was free and it would help him not get infections. And I was like, bunnies and lasers, what could go wrong? Do it. The Sims say the Sims have arrived. Hello, Sims. And also, of course, Lily Me. Welcome, Lily Me. She was shamed into coming on time after yesterday when I said she was so late. Hey, in today's show, we're going to go to the Festival of the Turning, a time when Elenil magic has to be turned off for 24 hours, more or less, to recharge, which is great. It's interesting. There's a whole festival involved. There's a celebration of sunrise. Night comes into the sunlit lands, which at least into the Elenil part of the sunlit lands, which it typically does not. It's a great, wonderful party. The biggest problem, of course, being that Madeline, Oliver, our main character, can't breathe very well without magic. So there's a little bit of terror involved here too. Now, as you know, Madeline and her friend Jason have been given permission to attend the Festival of the Turning by the Knight of the Mirror, their benefactor, assuming that their friend Shula takes care of them and makes sure they follow the rules, because apparently Jason can't be trusted. And that's where we pick up in this chapter number 24, the Festival of the Turning. Let's go. Let's see, chapter 24, the Festival of the Turning. When the world was young and foolish, the people burned the cities. The oceans, enraged with violence, flooded villages and carried away children. The ground shook and the sky wept blood. The people cried out day and night for help. From The Ordering of the World, an Elenil story. "I don't need a babysitter," Jason said for the third time. Bailea stopped in the festival throng and looked down at him with those glowing silver eyes, her brown hair in loose waves around her face. I do not know this word. It's someone who cares for children, Madeline said, grinning. Madeline and Bailea had instantly hit it off, which made Jason nervous. Bailea and Shula were already friends too, from fighting together against the skim. Jason had been following behind them through the crowd like some sort of fourth wheel. Wait, third wheel? But there were four of them. Four wheels were good. Whatever. He was following behind them like the fourth, less happy wheel. I do not understand, Bailea said. There are no children with us. So you are telling us that you do not need someone to watch the children who are not here? She looked at Madeline and Shula. Is this a joke among your people? It's a saying, Madeline said. It means he doesn't think he needs anyone to watch over him. He can take care of himself. Bailea put her gloved hands on Jason's shoulders. You are a man who always speaks truth, Wusong. Do you need someone to watch over you? Jason couldn't look into those silver eyes for long. He had a hard time concentrating on her question when her hands were on his shoulders. He tried to ignore the thrill of energy coursing through him and focus. Did he need someone to watch over him? So far, he had escaped a weird mermaid thing on his way into the Sunlit Lands. Okay, with Madeline's help. Made friends with some warriors, adopted a rhinoceros, and fought some nightmare monsters using magic. On the other hand, he had managed to make an enemy of the most powerful Elenil in the city, and he had accidentally told Breakbones about Madeline, then released Breakbones into the world. Those were pretty big mistakes. He cleared his throat. On second thought, it might not be bad to have someone watch over me. I will be that person tonight, Bailea said. The Knight of the Mirror has ordered this. Okay, he said. His knees felt weak. Madeline and Shula also will take care of you, she said, dropping her hands. You will have only 3 babysitters. Now come. We must get to the palace in time for the story. Madeline looped her arm through Jason's. Come on, buddy. I'll take care of you. The crowd pressed in around them. There were people from all over the Sunlit Lands. You had to be careful not to step on the tiny gray-skinned folks called Megrim. They were the size of toddlers. He hadn't seen any other Cockry like Bailea. He wasn't sure there was another person like Bailea in the whole world anyway. A clutch of women with shadowy blue skin passed. Aluvorians, Madeline said, rubbing nervously at her wrist. There weren't, he noticed, any skim. He asked Bailea about it. She pulled them underneath the awning of a fruit stand and bought a small, hard yellow fruit for each of them. The festival of the turning is celebrated by many of the people of the Sunlit Lands. The skim celebrate differently than the Elenil. Some have been given permission to return to their people for a time. Others are gathered in some quarter of the city, no doubt. Do you wish you were among your people? Shula asked. Bailea took a bite of her fruit. The Cockry do not celebrate the turning, she said. We have a festival close to this time when the 3rd and 4th spheres meet. I do not think we will hear the music of the spheres meeting here in Far-Seeing. That I will miss. It is a festival where stories are given freely to one another among my people. It is a cherished night. If the skim are all holed up in some other part of the city, we should be able to stay out as long as we like, Jason said. Madeline stiffened. I won't be able to breathe, though, Jason. Oh, yeah. Shula didn't say anything, but she would have wounds returning to her, too. And Jason, well, he'd either be half dead or he'd be fine. The day-long reversing of magic was going to be a mess for all of them. Jason didn't know if he'd rather be in a hospital bed or completely well, because if he was well, that meant Night's Breath, whoever he was dead. Dead. And it was Jason's fault. He had told himself he was going to look into it, but he never had. He wasn't sure if that counted as lying to himself. The first magic to turn, Bailea said, will be the light. Night will come upon Far-Seeing. Other magics will begin to turn soon after. It is unpredictable, but this much is certain. Whether within a few minutes or many hours, all Elenil magic will turn by night's end. We should make our way to Westwind during that first hour of darkness so that you may each be settled safely into your beds. I sleep in the stable, Jason said absently. We will stay in the outer ring of the crowd before the stairs leading to the garden so that we may leave the festivities early and return you to Westwind. Besides, we have no Elenil to accompany us to the inner courts. The magistrates, all 9 of them, stood upon a massive dais that had been constructed in front of the main entrance to the palace. Jason shivered at the thought of Archon Thenity catching sight of them. He didn't want to be in the same room with that guy ever again. Where are the guards? He asked. There were always people milling around with swords or pikes or some sort of weapon. Today he didn't see any. Everyone's celebrating, Shula said. All wars and grievances are set aside for a day. Tonight it will be day in the wasted lands and night in far-seeing. The wealthy will go about in rags and the poor will feast. It has long been tradition among the Elenil and Skim and all the peoples of the sunlit lands that there can be no fighting or war on this day, the most holy of their celebrations. They've given everyone the day off, Jason said. Yes. That's crazy, Jason said. They don't have any guards on duty? Shula shook her head. A small group of guards remain on duty, but the thought that someone would attack during the festival of the turning is inconceivable to them, and all the gates are locked. If someone were to try to break into the city, they would have plenty of warning. They would have to fight, in any case, because the humans would not have any fighting skills. Besides, she said, the Magrum have an agreement with the Elenil. They use their earth magic to block the entrances to the city and guard the walls. No one can get into the city during this time. Bailea said in a low voice, It is foolish for the Elenil to be so careless. It was only 137 years ago that the Magrum broke the Treaty of the Turning to attack my people with magic. Even now there is a city hidden among the dunes where some of my people live under their curse. Are you saying we're not safe? Madeline asked. My people can celebrate without setting aside caution, Bailea said. Jason snorted. They must be fun at parties. Yes, Bailea said. There is much dancing. A thought occurred to him. Are you carrying a weapon now? Bailea reached into the loose blue folds of her sleeves and pulled out 2 long wooden shafts with a metal connector on the end of one. The blades are easily accessible. She nodded as if confiding to a friend that of course she kept a roll of paper towels in the kitchen in case of spills. I only have my fists, Jason said. Shula laughed. I hope there's no trouble then. Madeline laughed too, but Bailea considered Jason carefully, sizing him up like a football coach weighing a freshman at tryouts. Do not forget your feet, she said with level sincerity. Yeah, okay, Jason said, looking down at his feet. Bailea's taking everything he said with complete seriousness had confused him at first. Now, though, he was getting used to it. Bailea treated him like someone worth listening to. She treated him like an equal, even though she was better than him at everything. He looked up from his feet to see her smiling at him. He blushed, and her smile widened. They're about to say something, Madeline said. Grateful for the interruption, Jason turned toward the magistrates. Archon Thenity stepped to the front of the dais. He wore a long robe that was emerald green and gold. The golden sheen of his skin matched the robe precisely. Madeline said, Jason, look. He's not wearing that covering he usually wears. I wonder why. Jason shrugged. My mom always says you have to wash your sheets once a week. Probably laundry day. It is to show the extent of his magic. It will be more dramatic when the magic fails, Bailea said. Now listen. The Archon raised his arms, waiting for the crowd to quiet, and then he said, May the light shine upon you. His voice reverberated through the city square as if the stones of the buildings themselves were speakers. No doubt it was magic, but it made Jason feel like the Archon was all around him, beneath his feet, dissolved in the wall beside him, watching and aware of anything Jason might do here in his city. The crowd answered in unison, May it never dim or wane. Oh, that first part was what the woman at the fruit stand had said to him. It must be a traditional or old-fashioned greeting because he didn't hear it often. Hanali, for instance, had never once used those words. The world is about to turn, Thenity said, and the crowd cheered. Many centuries ago, before we learned to harness magic, this was a chaotic, dangerous world. Our ancestors lived lives of considerable toil, filled with pain and the constant fear of death. Different people have used magic in different ways, but we, the Elenil, have wisely made this great city. We have used our magics to bring light to the sunlit lands. We have grown beautiful buildings. We have extended our lives in more years and beauty than any people before us. He held his arms up at this, and the people cheered again. The Crescent stone, pulsing with purple magics, descended from the top of the palace, floating down toward the Archon's hands. The stone was enormous, 3 or 4 times the size of the Archon, and it floated with a slow but implacable motion. As it came closer to the people below, it began to shrink. It didn't happen all at once. Jason thought at first it was moving down and also away from him. But by the time it reached Thenity, it was small enough for the Archon to hold it up in 2 hands. Our magic is made possible by this great gift, the Crescent Stone. I thought it was called the Heart of the Skim? Jason looked to Bylea for confirmation. He also noticed that Thenity had used the stone from the top of the tower, not the stone in the glass room. It must be for show, he realized. It was more dramatic to have a gigantic crystal fly down from the apex of the tower than to walk a smaller stone down the stairs. And likewise, he must not want to put the real stone in harm's way. Interesting. Some do not care for its true name, Bylea said in a low voice. You would be wise to be cautious when using it. Once a year, Thenity said, we live as our ancestors lived in a world without magic. In a moment I will silence the stone, and bit by bit magic will leave us. But fear not, my friends. This lesson in darkness will end in light. For tomorrow, our magic will return. Jason watched the crowd. So many interesting people and creatures wandered through the crowd. Something like an ape, but with 10-foot-long arms and purple-streaked hair, made a whooping sound. A group of the little Megrams stood on a stand they had constructed, bringing them more or less into Jason's sightline. There was a man dressed in what looked like seaweed leather, and a woman in a green robe and a tall hat covered in flowers. 3 human-looking people stood about halfway between him and the dais, their backs to him. They wore black clothing, and slung backwards over their shoulders were what appeared to be white masks. He couldn't see the masks clearly because they were partially covered by hoods the 3 people had left hanging down over their backs. Do people dress up? Like for Halloween? Jason asked. Is that a thing during the turning? No, Shula said. Look at those 3, he said. As he watched, the middle one shifted, and an arrow's fletching poked up from under his robe. He readjusted, and it disappeared again. They have weapons. From here, it looks like they're dressed like the Black Skulls. Bylea, without a word, stalked into the crowd, shrugging her weapon from her sleeves and assembling it. There's Rondello, Madeline said, pointing into the sea of people to their right. Sitting on his white stag. We should tell him. It's probably nothing, Jason said, staring at the middle figure, who had moved his robe to put his hand on the hilt of a sword. Wait, it might be something. Jason pushed his way forward toward Bylea, calling back to Madeline, Get Rondello! Bylea had her long staff with the blades on either side out now, and the crowd parted before her like water, moving aside for a ship. She spun the staff twice as if reassuring herself of its heft. Jason pushed into her wake and ran to catch up. He didn't have a sword or bow, but he might be able to grab something off one of the Black Skulls if Bylea managed to stop one of them. Hanali appeared beside him, matching him step for step. The sunlit lands, he said, are full of things that are not what they appear to be. I've seen those Black Skulls in action, Jason said. Also, nice outfit. Hanali was wearing a tuxedo that looked suspiciously like a toned-down version of the insane riot of clashing colors Jason had worn to the bidding. Hanali smiled, his teeth and eyes sparkling. What color, he asked, are those skulls again? Jason blinked. The black skulls were wearing black robes, but their skulls were white, the exact opposite of the black skulls he had seen on the battlefield. Uh-oh, he said. Bailea grabbed the shoulder of the middle stranger, the white skull, and spun him around. His face shone with a strange iridescence, almost as if it was covered with small, fine scales. He had no hair. What had appeared to be hair from behind was only more differently colored scales. His eyes had yellow irises with vertical slits in them, and sharp white teeth crowded his mouth. Bailea didn't put away her staff, but she no longer held it in a threatening way either. When Jason and Hanali arrived beside her, she was already talking. Understand why it appears to be a threat to the Elenil. The first white skull bowed low. Now that you explain, Cockry woman, we understand. A second white skull spoke, his voice as harsh and unpleasant as the others. It is, among our people, considered a comedic statement. Your humor is notoriously difficult to understand, Bailea said. This is a joke? Jason studied the three of them carefully. They looked like the black skulls, but as if someone had switched all the colors around. The white skulls laughed, and the center one said, We see, and our hearts understand, Cockry woman. This human male does not perceive the joke, and his soul is not lightened with laughter. They ignored Hanali completely. He, for his part, didn't seem bothered by this. He turned and waved Rondello away. Madeline and Shula were making their way to them. They are from the southern court, Bailea said to Jason. They thought it would be funny to pretend to be Skim at the Elenil celebration. All three white skulls laughed. Our cousins have appeared as Elenil at the Skim celebration, one of them said. It is a cause of great merriment, no doubt. I'm going to dress up like your worst enemy and come to the southern court next time, Jason said. All three skulls burst into uproarious laughter. Yes, friend, do. They all three clapped their left hand onto his left shoulder, then turned and wandered into the crowd. Bailea gave him an affectionate look. They liked you, she said. Jason wasn't so sure. I am likable, he said tentatively. It is rare for them to invite someone to their land, Hanali said. You showed respect by telling them you would come as their enemy because that means you know there is no enemy who frightens them. It is a great compliment among their people. I was trying to insult them. They are strange people, shapeshifters, tricksters. The Elenil have an uneasy alliance with them. Now come, all of you, Hanali said. Thenidy's long-winded speech will end soon, and I want you to meet my parents before night falls. Hanali's parents, Vivi and Reska, looked precisely the same as Hanali. Vivi, his father, had the same ageless face and wore a silken brocade jacket that reminded Jason of what Hanali had worn the first day they met. Long curls of blonde hair spilled out of a wide, floppy silk hat. Hanali's mother, Reska, wore a loose, flowing robe that covered her completely and a sheer veil through which could be seen yet another ageless face and a gentle smile. Jason looked at each of the three of them, baffled that they all looked to be the same age. You must have had Hanali very young, he said at last, and Hanali's parents burst into delighted laughter. We were young, Vivi said, looking lovingly into Reska's eyes. We were, what, 300 years old? Infants. Reska put a hand on Hanali's arm. No one else our age had a child. What a blessing you are, my son. Your parents are super nice, Jason said. That's more nice stuff than I've heard from my dad in my whole life. Reska smiled again. It is lovely to meet the children Hanali has ferried into the sunlit lands. They are always so delightful and interesting and loyal. Loyal? Jason glanced to Madeline. Loyal to who? To Hanali, of course, Vivi said with a delighted laugh. Enough, Hanali said, unless I am much mistaken. Our friend Thenidy is finishing his speech. Friend? Jason gave Hanali a sideways look. Was it just him, or did the Elenil reserve the word friend for people they disliked? Vivi took the arms of Shula and Madeline and turned toward the dais, chatting amiably. Leia stood nearby, collapsing her war staff. Reska took Jason's arm. One day, Hanali will stand on that dais, she said softly. Like, as a waiter or something? You are delightful. Perhaps he will be a butler for a magistrate. I doubt a waiter. She smiled at Jason as if they shared a deep secret. He had no idea what she was talking about. Okay, he said. That will be nice. Yes, she said, patting Jason's gloved hand. He is a good son. Her hand gripped his arm tighter as the audience murmured, then fell silent. The Archon held the heart of the skim over his head now, and the black color was leaching out of it, leaving only a brilliant white. Without the darkness inside of it, the stone looked like a gigantic diamond or maybe a piece of glass. Now, the Archon said, darkness falls, and our magic leaves us for a time, that we might remember the great sacrifices made by our ancestors who created the court of far-seeing, and remain thankful for the light. Then, for the first time since they had come to the sunlit lands, night fell. The end of chapter 24. Tomorrow, chapter 25, A Flight Through Darkness. That can only mean something bad's going to happen. Of course, something bad's going to happen. All right, my friends, don't forget, Friday, Diva Fagan, author of Rival Magic, is going to be with us. This is a really fun little book with a fun magic system. The basic idea of the story is there are these two girls, one of whom is a apprentice to be a magician, a wizard, right? And there's another girl who's a scullery maid. And it turns out the woman who is the young girl who's trying to be an apprentice is deeply committed to magic, but can't perform much of it. Whereas the scullery maid doesn't care that much about magic and is a deep, perfect natural. Like, she just barely tries and amazing things happen. And it's about the rivalry between these two girls and what is friendship. And of course, there are also nations in conflict and parents trying to get things from kids and kids trying to figure out how to make it through life. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it. As always, Tyndale.com is still taking orders and sending books right now for the Crescent Stone and all their books. And you can also get a variety of audiobooks, including the Crescent Stone, at oasisaudio.com. And also, as always, don't forget to like and comment on all of the places this is posted. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that at youtube.com/Matt Michelatis Books, or at facebook.com/Michelatis Books. And that does us for today. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming. It's